The UK and US are to carry out war game cyber attacks on each other as part of a new joint defence against online criminals. The first exercise, a staged attack on the financial sector, will take place later this year, Downing Street said. The unprecedented arrangement between the two countries was announced as Prime Minister David Cameron held talks with US President Barack Obama. Agents will also operate in cyber cells on both sides of the Atlantic. Downing Street said the cells, involving MI5 and the FBI, were the first the UK had established with another country. They will aim to improve the flow of information between the US and UK about threats. The measures come in the wake of the recent hacking of Sony Pictures computers and the US military's Central Command's Twitter feed, where comments were posted promoting Islamic State, IS, militants. Growing danger. Speaking to BBC political editor Nick Robinson after arriving in Washington on Thursday night for a two-day visit, Mr. Cameron said cyber attacks were one of the big modern threats that we face. The first war game will involve the Bank of England and commercial banks, targeting the City of London and Wall Street, and will be followed by further exercises to test critical national infrastructure, Downing Street said. Money will also be made available to train the next generation of cyber agents. Mr. Obama has said cyber threats were an urgent and growing danger and unveiled domestic proposals to strengthen the law. The U.S. CENTCOM Twitter account was suspended on Monday following an attack by hackers. Prior to this, the cyber attack on Sony Pictures Entertainment led to data being leaked from its computers exposing emails and personal details about staff and stars. The hackers, who called themselves Number GOP or Guardians of Peace, also threatened cinema chains planning to screen Sony's satirical North Korea comedy, The Interview, the plot of which involves a bid to assassinate the country's leader Kim Jong-un. Sony initially cancelled the film's release after leading U.S. cinema groups said they would not screen it, a move which Mr. Obama later described as a mistake. People's prosperity. The UK's National Audit Office warned in 2013 that a lack of skilled workers was hampering the fight against cybercrime. Mr. Cameron said the UK was already prepared for a cyber attack, saying GCHQ had massive expertise, but added more needed to be done. He said, "We need to be able in extremis to interrupt the contact between terrorists. It's also about protecting people's data, people's finances. These attacks can have real consequences to people's prosperity." Earlier this week, Mr. Cameron said in relation to cyber attacks that there should be no means of communication which we cannot read. The Prime Minister is expected to talk to the US President about getting companies such as Google and Facebook to allow governments to see encrypted messages. But the BBC's technology correspondent Rory Cellan-Jones said there had been a lot of concern over Mr. Cameron's words. He said not only were civil rights groups worried, but major players in the technology industry said banning encrypted messages could harm British trade if UK companies were seen to be not private. Our correspondent also told BBC Radio 4's Today programme that smaller social networking sites were just as well used by potential hackers as the well-known ones. Beef up filters. He said he had found an example of an exchange on the site ask.fm which appeared to be from an IS fighter asking another user which country he should go to for weapons training. In relation to the site being used for this type of communication, Doug Leeds, the chief executive of ask.com, which owns ask.fm, said, "We have taken some action, and we're looking to take more. What we have done so far is beef up our filters to try and look for patterns that would suggest that this is going on." Howard Schmidt, a former eBay and Microsoft executive, told the BBC attitudes around privacy and the right to encrypt personal data were still hotly debated in the US in light of the revelations disclosed by fugitive US intelligence leaker Edward Snowden. Among other things, Snowden's leaks detailed the National Security Agency's practice of harvesting data on millions of telephone calls made in the US and around the world, and revealed the CIA intelligence agency had snooped on foreign leaders. Mr. Cameron and Mr. Obama will also focus on the global economy during the Prime Minister's visit, which is likely to be his final Washington trip before May's general election. The pair also discussed the fight against Ebola over dinner at the White House on Thursday, and the Prime Minister said epidemiologists should be deployed around the world to provide a swift response to outbreaks.